The Wilds Files is an immigration law podcast. The content shared on this podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute legal advice. The views expressed by the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of any organization or law firm. Listeners should seek the counsel of a qualified attorney to address specific legal concerns. By listening, you acknowledge that the hosts and guests are not providing professional or personalized legal advice. Welcome to the Wilds Files. The files are open.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Wilds Files. I'm one of your hosts, Josh Wilds, and today we're opening up a very exciting file with my father, Michael Wilds, the managing partner of the firm. How are you doing today, Dad?
Okay, son. Lovely to be here.
Awesome. We're happy to have you, and you have a very busy schedule, so I appreciate you taking time, but we'll hope for our viewers' sake that you'll have more time to spend with us in the future. Today, we're going to be talking about something very interesting. I mean, we might go on some tangents as we go through it, but I do want to discuss with you the initial part of a case, starting from the beginning. A client finds us online. How do they find us? They reach out to our office. How do they reach out to our office? They come to the office to speak with a lawyer or an attorney present. What do they do? What do they say? What should they do? How should they be prepared for what we call a consultation? So before we get into that, is there anything specific you want to cover on that topic? Otherwise, we'll jump right in.
Well, first, what a privilege for me to be sitting and talking with you in the shadow of a giant that is my late father, who started this practice in 1960. Ruth in a booth. My mom's name was Ruth, rest her soul, and that would be Claire, our receptionist, saying,
I remember
Ruth
Claire,
on
yeah.
line 7. Ruth on line 7, Ruth in a booth. She was in a telephone booth, and my father would stop in his tracks and take the phone call. The same love and respect that he had for family, he had for clients, and he inculcated in us the same kind of treatment, so that if a new matter called the office, it was part of the extended family that would be coming, a distant cousin that was coming back, as it were. So the whole notion, first, that these are not files, but these are people with journeys, that their time is valuable like our time, is something that we conveyed even before somebody came. We always have a live receptionist answering phones, not just voicemail.
And even sometimes when people don't actually come, right? So they're emailing us or they're calling us, but then for whatever reason it doesn't progress into anything. We still treat people with the most respect possible. We're answering, I don't know, how many emails are you answering a day from new people? If you have
Thousands now, unfortunately. And I have them divided where I'm CC'd on an email so that I can trudge through them quickly. But even during the pandemic, where we went from this personal contact to Teams and Zooms, there's a protocol about the way we dress, the way we address a client, the kind of protocols that we have to make sure that we observe the ethics of our profession. A couple comes to us, they want to do a marriage case. I'd like to see both parties in the video. I'll actually take a photo, a screenshot, teaching the lawyers here that we have to be convinced of the bona fides of the marriage before we try to convince the authorities. That's why we haven't lost a marriage case. That's why the government trusts us, because they know that we're doing our own internal checks.
Yeah, of course. And obviously prior results don't guarantee a similar outcome, but we have a tremendous track record going back 65 years, right? 65, my math's correct, since the practice was started.
Since 1960.
Yeah, amazing. So a client finds us, they look us up online, they look us up on Google, they find our website. How in your perspective, in your mind, and maybe I'll have a different answer than you, but how do you believe that most clients are finding us nowadays?
They're onboarding us from anywhere and everywhere. It's coming in from emails, from phone calls, from WhatsApp, from text messages, from Messenger. Other than carrier pigeons and smoke signals, somebody will find me. Somebody will find me in person. I'm an elected official in New Jersey. They'll be leaving messages on my City Hall phones. A word on that, I will take people out of City Hall when they ask me an immigration question outside of the city building, because I want to make sure that I build a firewall. It's so important for lawyers to appreciate not just the fact that they're finding you, but how you treat that relationship too.
Yeah, and we're all, being reachable is, I think, the most important thing. In law school, they teach you about, during the ethics class, I believe it was, that communication is paramount with clients. That's the number one complaint that clients make, is that they don't have communications with their lawyers, and that's something I always admired about you and the firm and Zadie, which is means grandpa who started the practice. It's just the communication given to clients. But they're able to reach you, no problem. But in terms of finding you and finding the practice, from ChatGPT all the way to marketing on Instagram to word of mouth to everything in between. Is there a particular way that you, or a new trend that you see in terms of clients making that first initial contact?
Well, first, I just want to say that I think the success in both the political and in the legal arena with clients is 95% being present.
Yeah.
The other 5%
Absolutely.
is not making a mistake when you're with them. What that means is when I'm invited to a political event, showing up, listening. When I'm sitting with a client, paying attention, taking notes. The critical thing to answer your question about new trends is AI and ChatGPT, and they're taking all of the content that's out there on the internet and they're building their own little Irish stew, trying to figure out the right kind of relationship. And then they look on our website and people will ask, I would like Victoria, I would like Walter, I would like so-and-so because of referrals or experiences they have. And it's so important that we all speak the same language, that we have redundancies in place, that the ethics are protected. If we have a non-lawyer speaking with somebody, that they understand that the person isn't a licensed lawyer, but that we have people looking over the shoulders of everyone, but that no matter how we onboard it, we have protocols in place. And those protocols are simply this. And I sat with your grandfather, rest his soul, on a couch, dutifully, even though I was in this building, we're at 53rd and Madison since 1960. I sat with him on a couch for the first months that I was a minted lawyer, and he showed me such love and painful sensitivity to clients. The first line of a memo will always show where the client was referred and what office they're seeing us, because we thankfully have several offices. The last line will show the client's email and cell phone. In between would be a memo that would be dictated in front of the client. We always left 10 or 15 minutes towards the end of a session and dictated it from our notes. First, it showed the client that we were paying attention to the material and the content. Second, it set the governing body, if you would, of the relationship, and then would refer to the next step. Third, it made it easy for us to explain the exposure and the privacy and the confidentiality and the journey that they were taking. So the whole trends boils down to a system that marks the journey that these individuals have come. Frankly speaking, we have somebody sitting all day long at a phone waiting for calls to come in, emails to come in, and then 24/7, we all have our cell phones at the ready. And your mom, to her credit, treats clients as an extension of our family for the same reason that I take calls whenever there's an urgency.
Yeah, I think the 24/7 thing that you mentioned is very unique to the immigration world because we're dealing with people all over the world. And my wife is starting to see the same trends when clients call me 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. But I'll always answer the phone the same way you do because these are people's lives at stake, and they're just, they're scared. Some people are very scared, or they're very happy, depending on their situation. And we want to be there for our clients no matter what. So the client reaches out to us somehow. They find us somehow. They reach it, they get in contact, and a meeting is set up. They show up to the meeting, and I know there's going to be no one shoe size fits all type of example because we're dealing with people from all over the world, different ages, different genders, different experiences, different education. But what is that initial consultation like? The first moment you're sitting with a client, how do you think they feel? How do you feel? What kind of information are you trying to gauge? What can clients do to best prepare for that meeting to make the best use of their time? Maybe you could just talk a little bit about that.
I compare this to a child reading a person. Whether it's your own child or somebody else's child, in a few moments, they know whether or not you are listening, if you have their best interests at heart. It's the body language, it's the experience that's there. It's making sure that whoever's in the room is going to protect the confidentiality that's coming out. People bring translators or third parties. I'll remind the client, you may not want the person in the room if this is taking a direction where your privacy will be breached, or we may have somebody here who can take care of the language need. I'll also be sensitive, particularly in Violence Against Women Act or the family side of our ledger, to make sure that I have other sexes represented in our room, or that if I'm not familiar with a certain culture or experience for an asylum case that I have consulted other people. That means do your homework before a client shows up so that we're not shocked. Also, understand we don't charge by the hour, we charge by the project. That consultation, if it's done well, could be done in a half hour, or it may take an hour and a half, in which case you have to make sure that you govern the people waiting for you, whether they're physically there or mustering in the virtual world, which means that we can't give a person a cup of coffee who's waiting on a Zoom and we're a few minutes late. And if I get somebody else in there to do triage to get the matter started, that they understand they're paying a premium for whoever it is that they bargained for. So there is a bit of a business propriety here, but at the same time, we have to understand as much as we make money, we're in it to help people. And that comes out. That comes out in the way you and I are perceived by clients, by the staff in the office, and most importantly, by the immigration authorities themselves. My dad taught me, rest his soul, to understand that people in front of you act as if they're wearing a wire. Right. Make sure that whatever you say and what is ever asked of you, if it's ever recorded, you'd be proud to listen to yourself back.
Yeah, and that means always telling the truth, always giving the best legal advice possible, and just doing what we can to help, like you said.
If they can't afford the fee, then I'm not going to say schmuck, but somebody in the waiting room may have to pick it up. You know, ish kamatnat yodo, the prayers say in the high holidays. Everybody according to what they can afford. I don't remember turning people away. Yes, we have an initial consultation because there has to be legal consideration for it, but we have full capability of doing kind deeds. Yeah. And you know the repertoire of pro bono that are cases without fee that we take great pride in, because there are no pockets when they put us down.
Yeah, we do a lot of that, and that's sometimes the most rewarding work. But you know what I like to tell people, and you kind of hinted at this a little bit, is that the consultation is kind of like an X-ray that a doctor has to do. You know, somebody's in pain, not medical pain this time, but legal pain, and we need to figure out how we're going to solve that. Is there going to be surgery? Is it going to be a Band-Aid? Is it going to be just leave it and let it heal? But we can't do that until we do our X-ray and we do our own homework. And that's the purpose of the consultation. And it's also, like you said, to make sure that we're legally covered so that we can form an attorney-client privilege, so that anything that is shared with us, and sometimes people are extremely vulnerable and open and honest because they have to be, because we need to know everything in order to best advise. So that privilege is formed the minute they walk into the door for that consultation.
Some people get tripped up, Josh. In other words, we say that we're going to credit the consultation fee if they hire us in short order. So short order to us could be the next week, but to a client, it could be the next 6 months. So we have to make sure that we're always on the same page. And while money is important, I think clients know, and staff, that it is second in command to doing a professional job.
Yeah, absolutely. So the consultation happens, you figure something out about somebody, hopefully you come up with a strategy or a path, and you take it forward from there. And sometimes you build relationships with clients, right? That's never usually goodbye. Even if there's nothing you can do, sometimes people will kind of resurrect themselves years later.
Well, the governing document of the relationship is the fee agreement. Our practice is to have a contract, if you would, on every matter, and it tries to put in very specific terms what we discussed. So the memo that we dictated then becomes a skeleton of what's going to happen in the future. The fee agreement should govern. If there are intervening circumstances or challenges, we may have supplemental agreements. But the thesis is to not have just grinders getting out product, but minders and landmark agreements with our clients. I like to see clients with some measure of frequency also, Josh. I don't think it's healthy that we just do emails and phone calls. I caution clients all the time, if they're in the city or if they're in our Englewood or Miami office, for that matter, to stop by for a coffee and to get acquainted. And I try to team cases up with at least 3 people. That is a partner, a lead associate, and a paralegal professional. Sometimes the paralegal professional, we have them here in our office more than 30 years, is the lead, but their work is always looked over by attorneys or the partner involved. And this hierarchy plays a significant role, so that there are always 3-4 people copied on emails, and if somebody's on holiday, they know they can reach us. My cell phone is printed on my card and my email for that purpose.
Yeah, and even when we represent people all over the world, so sometimes there's not that opportunity to see them in person, but I think something that you've taught us all to do well is to follow up with phone calls and emails as much as possible. Make clients feel like they're being heard. Even if it's sometimes in immigration, it's a long waiting game, and there could be months or even years where you're just waiting for the government to do their job and make a decision. But we're trying to always constantly follow up with clients to let them know, hey, we're thinking about you. We're thinking about your case. It's important to us too.
That's right. And the little things. I remember your late grandfather on this sign one day at 6 o'clock at night on Windex with a rag cleaning it. And I remember saying to him off video, but I recorded him, it's hard to keep a clean name, Dad, isn't it? And it was his sainted father that led his name to him and to us. And the responsibility is for us to make wise choices for the important tasks that we're given.
Yeah, well, that's one thing he always instilled in me. I always remember asking him for advice when we were sitting together, just us two or the three of us. And one thing he always said is that it's so important to have, in Hebrew we say shem tov, a good name. But your reputation really is everything. And having a good reputation, it's not about ego. It's not about inflating what you do. He was the most humble man, that I knew. But it's about just doing the right thing daily, and that reputation comes with that.
Remarkable effects. I'm looking at his letters and the pleasantries and the work product that he always reviewed, making sure that lawyers were addressing clients and showing the team effort that went out here and the kind of scholarship that he insisted that we would continually keep ourselves relevant and speak as we're speaking today. This is in a tradition your grandfather would be extraordinarily proud, as I am of you too.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. But like we mentioned before, and just for our viewers, that initial consultation, just circling back to everything, that's just the beginning. That's the first entry into what we believe is a true relationship, and sometimes that relationship lasts many, many years. Is there anything else you'd like to add just on that initial consultations or anything related we spoke about?
We only do one memo on every case.
Yeah,
because things will divert and change, and it will change structure, but we track off of the agreements, and we hope and pray that as the relationship evolves, conversations and communications will continually be there, and we can track that, and we have supervisors at all times to make sure that we manage this, because the winds of war internationally will change country conditions, immigration and administrations will change priorities, but one constant, and that is our advocacy for each of these individuals. They're not files, they're people.
Yeah, and these memos that you keep referencing, I've worked at a couple of different places, including the government. I worked for the Department of Justice, as you know, and I know you have as well. But these memos, the record keeping that we have is, I think, what sets us apart from many other practices. I had a memo, and just, again, for the viewers out there, memos is just a piece of paper in very general terms where we just keep notes on what the conversation was, who referred them, what their contact information is, the meat and potatoes of the meeting. But we've had people have come back to us after 17, 18, sometimes 30 plus years, where they're like, hey, I met your grandfather. Your grandfather worked on my green card, in the 1980s, and I need you to help my grandchild, or whatever it may be. And thank God we have those memos to go back on. I mean, it's incredible to see the progression.
Your Zadie would sit with a client, and I would ask him, they came in to get a student visa. Why are you talking about citizenship and green cards and work visas? He said, you have an opportunity to help people along. And I think his prescient words would ring strong now. People with visas are going for green cards. Green card holders should be going for citizenship. I remember a conversation with the late Brian Mulroney, the former Prime Minister of Canada, when we were helping his daughter. We got her a visa, green card, we were going for citizenship, and he wanted to make sure his daughter would be a citizen of the United States. People are prideful of their ancestry and their traditions and their homes. But this country, to its credit, allows people to pray on a Friday, a Saturday, or a Sunday, or don't pray at all. But you are foolhardy to believe that a green card is enough. Unless you are from Japan or certain countries that would abandon your nationality there by becoming a U.S. citizen. This administration, to its credit, the Trump administration, to its credit, is still adjudicating citizenship and encouraging it quickly. It's not taking more than 9 months now to become a citizen, mostly nationwide. We urge all our clients, and if you have exposure, come vet it out. That's the purpose of a consultation. So consultations, consultations, consultations. It's an opportunity for you to give us a snapshot of America gone right in your life, and for us to kind of strut our stuff and help you get to that higher station.
Yeah, absolutely. So from consultations all the way up to citizenship and everything in between, sometimes taking many years, sometimes going quickly. That's something that we pride ourselves on, and we've been doing for a long time. Thank you so much. We'll have you back, obviously, many, many times. We appreciate it.
We don't shake hands, we kiss.
This file is officially closed, and we'll see you guys next time. Ciao.